What would you choose to do if you knew nobody was paying attention? What would you choose to do if you were guaranteed success? What would you choose to do if you were guaranteed failure? So your answer doesn't have to be voice acting, but just think through that as we go through this, because a lot of what I have to share can be applied to other creative endeavors and passions that you might have. I don't necessarily have all the answers, but what I'm about to share is what worked for me and what can apply to you in whatever creative endeavors you're pursuing or whatever passions you're into. I'll just start first with a little bit about me and my background. When I first got started, I was 11 years old. I was doing a ton of theater. I was really passionate about acting. I was taking acting classes for TV and film stuff. I was in the school musicals. I was in choir. I was in singing groups. I even did competitive speech tournaments. I don't know if anyone did forensics or is familiar with that. I competed in all of the interpretation categories, which was basically competitive theater, where you're playing all sorts of characters and doing all sorts of voices. It was a ton of fun. I was so passionate about it. I was the captain of my team at some point. I was that person in high school that was like, best actor in senior polls and all that. I was that guy, and I loved it. But what happened was, after high school, I decided that I was afraid to get into acting as a career. It's a very vulnerable career decision to make, to put yourself out there and to maybe choose to be that starving actor. So I was afraid of failing. So what I decided to do was I got more into the business side of entertainment. And I also was a very studious person and was also very much interested in business. I decided, okay, I'm going to pursue the business side of the entertainment industry, and that's going to do it for me, right? If I find my success there, then I'll be okay. I don't need to think about, acting or performing, because I'll be a part of the industry, but in a different way. Basically, I got lucky, a combination of hard work, timing. I applied to USC, the University of Southern California, where they had a joint business and film program where I could study the business side of entertainment. Got into that program, didn't look back, and was on my way to getting into the business side of the industry. And what happened was I did a bunch of internships, ended up at Disney, studied kids TV ratings and viewership, how many kids are watching our shows on whichever screen and device. I transitioned to Fox, which was more partnership stuff. While I was at Disney and Fox, I was thinking, okay, it would be nice to kind of do acting on the side. Maybe voice acting is a good outlet, because I can do that while still having a full-time job, so kind of having one foot here, one foot there. But I didn't really take it super seriously. I maybe did a job there. And then what ended up happening was, later on, I ended up transitioning to YouTube 5 months before the pandemic happened. And it was during the pandemic where I started doing some self-reflection. I don't know if anyone else felt during COVID, you started thinking, what am I doing with my life? What is life all about? And so it dawned on me, I've been putting off performing for 10 years. I got to get back into this. So that's what I did. And so now I'm here talking to you guys at this event, explaining how I got to where I am. So I'll start off first with the mindset. Everyone has their own journey, and you have your reasons for doing the things that you do. So if you reflect internally, a lot of people get into acting for maybe the wrong reasons, right? They want attention, they want to feel loved by the audience, they want to be rich, they want to be famous, that's what they're striving for. And then there's a whole bunch of other people that just love it for the art form and the creative outlet that it has, and the artistic pursuit, and how they get lost in it. And it's very important to know your why. So for me, and what I listed, this is fun, it's art, it's flow, it's joy, it's community, it's beauty, right? It's storytelling, it's being able to put yourself in another person's shoes. That's what it is for me. So think carefully with what that is for you. And are you seeking external validation, or would you do this if no one else was watching, right? One of my favorite quotes here from Jim Carrey is, "You could fail at what you don't want, so you might as well take a chance on doing what you love." Moving on, let's talk about this foundation of self-belief, right? You are enough. Maybe you've heard this phrase before, but you really are. No one is going to beat you at being you. So the way you stand out is being unique and being your own brand and your own presence, and you're not trying to be someone else, right, as the performer. And obviously you can put on characters and stuff and be someone totally different, but a lot of it is ultimately rooted in who you are, where you are putting on this performance or character through the perspective of your own life experience, and that's what you're drawing from to then be something or someone else. And one of the things I've loved is, like, you can escape competition by just being yourself, right? The other thing to think about is consistency. Consistently learn new things, consistently keep doing, use what you learn to keep doing, and consistently balance your work and productivity with your relaxation and chilling out. Okay, I like to work hard and chill hard. And then, of course, be consistent in challenging yourself and stretching your comfort zone. The other thing too that was like a breakthrough moment for me was redefining success. Ideally, you're already doing what you want to be doing, and the side effect or symptom is the success and the other things that come from that. So anything is either a win or a lesson learned when it comes to rejection or actually achieving that new milestone. You want to prioritize self-care, that's like first and foremost, and then all the other things you make time for. And of course, don't forget to have fun, okay? I'm gonna get into like some of the myths. When I was asking around for advice, talking to people, you don't need an amazing voice. This day and age, a lot of successful voice actors sound very casual and relatable. That's what they want. There was a time where they wanted that boomy voice, and there was only a dozen people that were doing this. This day and age, they want the millennial sound. They want the Gen Z sound. You do not need to do a bunch of voices either. That's also a myth. There's people that have amazing careers just literally being themselves and talking normally, and they can't even do voices. It's a nice to have, but you don't need that. There is no strict path for how to succeed. I've talked to people and their success story, it's always a different story. So the other thing is you'll never get work. It's too competitive. It is very competitive, but there is so many opportunities out there. You could start small. You could work on indie projects. You can work with your best friend and you could make things for yourself and then just keep building. The other thing is they say, oh, you won't have enough time or energy. If you really love this, you will find the time and you will have the energy. The other thing is people might think, oh, everyone will notice if I fail publicly. Truth of the matter is, are you paying attention really that much to what other people are putting out there and posting, right? Everyone's a little bit more self-absorbed when it comes to these things. You might as well just go for it. So I'm gonna do a very quick deep dive on just the industry in general. And then with this context, we can then get into the frameworks and the things that have helped me. Starting first, there's still a lot of demand and new opportunities for voiceover. There is a stat out there that says the voiceover industry is projected to be a $4 billion industry. I've read 3 reports that have come out this year that have projected in the early 2030s that it might go up to 8 billion. I've seen something else that says 25 billion. I've seen something else that says 40 billion. It's a very big spread. We're not very good at predicting the future, but in general, the trend is showing growth. The other thing is, as you guys know, there's AI voice replication out there. As of now, there's still this need for human voices, right? AI is not quite doing it. It's very impressive and it's really cool to play around with. And a lot of decision makers and studios are thinking maybe how can we use this for efficiencies? But for now, they want the human voice. And there's a lot of opportunity for different languages. That's a very growing, emerging sector. So Spanish in particular, if you speak Spanish, Chinese too, those are 2 huge areas where they're looking for people that can do that and speak very specifically to the dialect. So a ton of opportunities to be involved with that cultural nuance. The other thing is new frontiers. So basically, there's more devices that are being made and invented, There's new experiences that are being created too, like immersive experiences and VR and all that. So all of that is going to need voices. The other thing is the trend in what I call the entrepreneurial voice actor. So basically from COVID, it normalized remote work and it kind of put more of the responsibility onto the voice actor to have their home studio and to have good quality gear and a home studio setup. And what that's done is it's given you access to opportunities and also given you an opportunity to be the actor as the creator, where you are running your own business and being entrepreneurial. So personal branding is really important to stand out. You got to think like an entrepreneur, and you could even create your own content at this point. Going back again to like democratize access is unprecedented flexibility. You can be based here and do work for someone in Japan. You could be based in LA and do work for someone in Houston. You don't need to be based anymore in the major cities to be a part of this. There used to be a time where you needed to be in LA if you were getting involved, and when you did auditions, you needed to go to the actual like studio to even just do the audition, not even get the job. Nowadays, people can send auditions through their phone, and maybe they understand like, oh, I'm on the go. Yeah, there's many options now with reaching the world. So the other thing we definitely got to talk about is AI. It's a huge disruption, and it's basically revolutionary and creating all these potential, job displacement opportunities, not just in voice generation, but just in any occupation. The other thing too is there's a ton of these unknown complexities, right? It's bringing all these ethical concerns of stealing people's voices. It's creating friction in the industry because there's strikes and stuff that have happened with the writer's strike. We're actually still in a video game strike right now that's just been very contentious, and it will kind of set precedent for how things go from this point forward. And all sorts of evolving legal frameworks, right? We don't really know how to define things, and if something was generated by AI, does that belong to the person that made it? What if the AI that made that sound was actually clearly taking the voice of Morgan Freeman? Does that belong to Morgan Freeman? Should he get paid for it, or no, because you just kind of did your own thing and his voice is out there on the internet anyway? Basically, my prediction is this will be a hybrid future where we will need to learn to coexist with this. And I don't know where this all goes, but there's a lot of disruptive technologies that exist now that don't change how we behave now. So if you look at cars, right? Some people still ride horses, even though cars were invented. People still run marathons and participate in these activities, even though we have cars. Radio still exists, but maybe isn't as prominent as it used to be. People still love to watch theater, even though obviously we have TV and film at this point. So maybe voice acting will evolve and be this new medium that could be more boutique or could be that much more special as a result of all these changes. So now I'm just gonna play another demo reel. I figured I'd mix it up and it'd be fun rather than constantly lecturing. So this is a character reel.
The ring cannot stay here. This peril belongs to all Middle-earth. They must decide now how to end it. Bring forth the ring, Frodo.
Normally, to solve a problem, I'd build a dam, but this ain't a damn problem. We'll have to get him to jump. Hey, Upchuck, you'll have to dive into the pool.
I don't think I can.
Sure you can. Just close your eyes, relax, and let go right into the toilet.
Walter Peck, EPA. Your operations and containment unit are officially deemed dangerous to the city. By order of the court, shut it down!
The whelp Nakadai has forged an alliance with the barbarians. We need to destroy them. Perhaps Radulf's failed son.
Roar! I'm fierce!
That was a character demo, so that's all actual work that I've done. Let's talk about, maybe I'll come up with a fancier name for this later, but I'm just calling this the 3-focus approach. When I first got started, I was breaking things down into 3 big buckets. One is you as the artist or the actor. This is working on your talent, right? Are you creative? Are you performing well? Are you taking classes and training? Do you understand what it means to be a great actor? The other bucket is business. So are you a good businessman or woman, right? Are you able to respond to emails? Or do you conduct yourself professionally? Are you taking care of the cash flow and finances of this business? Are you thinking about branding and marketing? So that is the business part. And then the third bucket is technology. Are you able to use a mic? Do you know how to record? Can you send a file? Do you know how to use the software to do all those things? Do you have a demo or know maybe how to make one initially to help showcase your work? Are you on social media and savvy enough to post and engage your audience and reach people in that sort of way? We'll dive more deeply first into the artist. There's this really cool quote to define acting. I think this is one of the best ones out there. Many people define it differently, but acting is behaving truthfully under imaginary circumstances. Okay, very simple, but very meaningful in really describing what that is. Just diving further in how to act or how to be an artist. There is no like strict template of how to do that, but this is me just kind of giving some guidelines that's worked for me. Basically, you gotta experience life, right? Because you're drawing from life to perform. And usually the older you get, the more life experience you have, and frankly, the better actor you become. It could be very hard for younger kids to actually do this well because they've never fell in love before, they never dealt with loss, and sometimes they need to embody that even though that's something that's actually foreign to them. The other thing is, being a great voice actor means being a great actor first and foremost. One of the kind of breakthrough moments I had was realizing that you're not necessarily acting into the mic, right? You are actually acting and the mic is in front of you and happens to pick up your audio. It's a little bit different, but makes a huge change in the performance in my personal opinion. Also, receiving that honest feedback and reflecting and refining and knowing how to self-direct. What's interesting about voice acting is you can be in a room by yourself, right? And not only is this a room, this is a room that's very uninteresting sometimes, right? You're surrounded by just padding and a microphone, and you need to imagine the circumstances where you're getting attacked by a zombie, or you are having a conversation intimately with someone who's not even there. What's fun about this is having that imagination. And I would say, not to discredit all the other art forms because I love them too, I would say voice acting is one of the harder ones because of this. So think about it. When you are acting in a TV shoot or something, you're literally setting the stage, right? That person's in front of you, you're responding to them, you could see their physical cues and emotions. You are able to use your physicality and your facial expressions to express something, right? You're in the setting. In the case of voice acting, all of that doesn't exist. All people are picking up on is what is conveyed in only the voice. A way to think about it is when people make wine, they're grabbing all these grapes and they're processing them and stepping on them, and it goes through this fermentation thing, and then you open the spigot and then there's just these drops of the actual wine that's being made. That's what it feels like voice acting is sometimes. So training, this is so important, right? All of the great actors still to this day, they still are training. So take acting classes, get voiceover coaching, do singing too, because that's super related, right? In voice acting, there's a lot of rhythmic things to it, and cadence, and fluctuations in pitch to think about. So it's very much related. Improv is super important, especially in auditions. The way to stand out in auditions is to not just read exactly necessarily what's in front of you, but to maybe changing up a little bit, or maybe add a little line here or there that just kind of shows that you know how to play. Just think about it. If people are listening to hundreds or thousands of the same audition and then all of a sudden they hear something that's different, that's going to stand out and maybe make all the difference. So improv is super important. And then also learning vocal health, okay? If you're screaming and stuff all the time, that's going to impact your voice. If you're in a 4-hour session where you're constantly getting attacked, there's methods and techniques to think about vocal health. You don't want to burn your voice out and ruin it for yourself, so super important. The other thing too is watching stuff and consuming content. You got to keep up with what's out there. And ideally this doesn't feel like work, right? This is fun. You're watching TV, you're watching others perform, you're watching some theater, and now you're listening to ads with a more critical eye, right? This was the voice actor that got this job. What was special about this? What did they do that maybe I can do? And then also when it comes to, just being that artist is actually getting out there and performing, right? Whatever that is, getting involved in theater, just putting your work out there. Great ways to do that is to just be in the moment. Oftentimes when people are trying to act, that is actually the problem itself, right? You are, trying to act and put on this show, but that's just getting in the way of just being normal and natural, right? Real life doesn't necessarily have a script, right? It's being just genuine. The other interesting tidbit I've heard, this was actually from Bryan Cranston. He's the guy that was in Breaking Bad, Malcolm in the Middle, the crazy dad. He said, your job is doing a great audition, right? That's your job. And then the side effect after is then getting and booking, right? So do a great job with the audition and then let everything else follow. What's also cool about performing is you can have thoughts or think to do things that you normally wouldn't even have thought to do yourself. So you could kind of get lost in that other person. Think about how you could be that artist or creative or actor. So let's talk about business, okay? There's a lot of words, but these all apply. So this is thinking about how are you managing those relationships? And then business development is like thinking through how are you getting new leads and opportunities to get work. You want to think about your personal brand, right? Are you someone that people want to work with or want to attach your name to? Marketing is also a key thing for obvious reasons. And are you a responsive person? Are you able to answer emails? And then thinking about the finances as well. Cash out and cash in, is that in a good balance? And oftentimes when people first start businesses, they'll be cash flow negative and they're investing some of their own money to get this going. So thinking through the balance of that is important, and starting small and then expanding. You don't want to necessarily overinvest and then not be able to make up for that and kind of drive yourself down. And also just being helpful, right? It's really crazy working with people, and sometimes people just aren't as helpful as you'd hope for. And so when you find someone that's competent, then hold on to that and ideally be that person. And then of course, understanding the industry. So we went over, like in a past slide, right? Because if you know the industry, then you have the context of who the decision makers are, and you're able to apply that in how you posture the way you do things. And then goal setting, right? It's as simple as knowing where you want to be and then working backwards from that. And then all these other things, right, are pretty intuitive. Collaboration, being prepared, being professional. Cool quote from Steve Jobs: I'm convinced that about half of what separates the successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance. So let's jump into the tech. These are the things to think about. So it's the gear. Do you have a microphone? Do you know how to use it for recording? And thinking about soundproofing. There's sound isolation, which is making sure that you're in a quiet space and sound isn't getting through. And then there's also acoustic treatment, which is the space that you are in is working with getting that good sound. So these are kind of two things to think about. There's all sorts of methods to do this without needing to spend a lot of money. So there's people that will get PVC pipes and sound blankets and put them up. You could do that with like under $100, $200. And then there's the other extreme, which is getting a vocal booth, which could be like nine grand. So there's a big range of options. All that matters, like if it sounds good, it is good. So in time, you can work towards that to build your credibility and also just make things so much easier, because if you do the blankets and the pipes, that could get taxing after a while. And then all these other things, right? Knowing how to use that software. There's all sorts of what they call DAWs, digital audio workstations. So these are ways to manipulate and edit sound as you record. And that goes into the editing as well as leading into demos. Can you showcase demos that present your work and what you're capable of doing? A lot of people, when they make demos, they could be fake things. There's a whole world of professional demo producers. So these are people that you pay where they give you fake ad copy or fake characters and scripts that are written custom to you, and then they'll help produce something that's of super good quality that makes you more appealing to agents and decision makers. In the beginning, you don't necessarily need to pay for that though. They could be like $2 to $3 grand a demo, right? That's a lot. So far, I haven't really used professional demo producers. It just didn't feel like I needed to at this point, but at some point I'll consider it. A lot of these video demos, by the way, are made by Digital Wizard Studios. So they're a great animation company that I've worked with. They're actually sponsoring me this weekend. So I just wanted to shout out, they're great, check them out, Digital Wizard Studios. The other thing too is to think about your website, right? This is your storefront, is the phrase I've heard, right? And you have all this control of your website and your branding and how you, like the color palette you're using and the pictures you're using to present yourself. A lot of the key things that are important to have on a website, 3 things. People need to get to know you and know what you're all about. They need to be able to play demos and see your work, and they need a way to get in touch with you. That's the basics, the 3 basic things. You need to make sure that those 3 things are solid, and then everything else is kind of bonus and fluff and extra. Social media, right? This is for obvious reasons, right? You want to have people know your presence, and I was one of those people that actually avoided social media for a while. I had a Facebook since middle school, but that was all I had, and I didn't really start an Instagram until I was 30. So I was really putting it off. I'm 32 right now, so I've only had it for 2 years. So I'm really building and figuring out the difference between a story and a highlight and a reel and all that. I figured that out at this point, but I regret not getting into that way sooner, because I have like 2,000 Facebook friends just because I had it for so long, and I'm at 600 or something on Instagram, and I think there was a missed opportunity, but that's okay. Plug, follow me on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. So it's James__voices. So yeah. Yeah, I have a QR code at the end where you guys can do that. And if you want to get in touch, I could send you more helpful things, and we could talk about that later. So the other thing to think about too is new tools, right? You got to be exploring, okay? Things are moving so fast, especially with AI tools and stuff out there. I don't know if you played around with this. Literally, things that were amazing at the beginning of this year are already becoming old news now. As we've spoken, since the start of this presentation to now, AI has already gotten better, and so have the tools that are out there. So you got to just keep up with all that. That way you could kind of integrate with this and figure out how to be that person that demonstrates that you know the trends and you're with it. What I'm going to do now is mix it up. This is my commercial reel, okay? There's no video with this. This is one of the things I use to demonstrate to people that I can do a commercial or an ad.
Defined by a spirit that's ready for anything, the all-new Bronco 2-door. Experience the future of off-roading. Reimagine the wild. ClassPass makes it easy. Discover and book thousands of workouts all in one app. Find classes in advance, on the go, whenever. So let's get moving. ClassPass. Why not have a good time? Pour yourself something smooth. Grey Goose Vodka. Perfectly seared all-American grass-fed beef. Melted organic cheese and made from scratch Thousand Island. Can you taste it? Burger Lounge. The original grass-fed burger. Use your superhero powers and fly into action. New LEGO Marvel superhero sets. Each set sold separately. To further our understanding and expand what's possible, let's take the next great leap of American exploration. NASA.
Cool. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, A couple of things to talk about with that. What I did was I just listed all these companies that I knew and was interested in, and then I just started watching their ads. And then I just started making my own ad copy. This was all just things that I scripted. These are not real ads. And then I kind of thought strategically about the different emotions or kind of voice and intonation. With commercial demos, it's always going to be your voice, but you're changing the performance of you, right? Is it excited you? Is it solemn you? Is it intellectual you? Is it warm and friendly you? Is it casual you? So that's kind of the range and stuff that you would want to do in a commercial demo. And that could be its own discussion. By the way, a lot of these topics can be their own discussion, but that just kind of gives you an idea of how to go about it. This is a cool set of charts, okay? Think about this. It's pretty self-explanatory, right? I think we've all been guilty of waiting when we think we're ready, and maybe that's 3 years from now versus just starting now and realizing that you're never really ready, but you just got to jump into it because you will figure things out along the way, and that trial and error is going to be way more valuable for you to just deal with than to be that perfectionist, okay? It's the same with just the basic concepts of investing, right? We're always told you got to just put money in early and let it compound over time, and time is always going to be more guaranteed for you than you being able to like time the market and be the best stock picker, right? So it's the same thing with investing in yourself. Just start now. And in a way, your habits are building your tomorrow's self. You could think of it as all the things you're doing is setting yourself up for that person you're upvoting for yourself to become. So just think about that. We'll get into talking about, so if you have a job, right, and you feel that's getting in the way of me being able to do my side hustle or my creative outlet or voice acting, your day job is your competitive advantage because you're getting paychecks, and that money you can use to invest in your other business. So you could think through this carefully, right? Where usually when you get these paychecks, it might go into a 401k automatically. There might be some that you're setting aside, hopefully, as cash. The same thing is with this other bucket, which is this side hustle and business itself. So you can change things and reallocate because that's an important thing to invest in. Not just thinking of it as a business, but thinking of it as your passion and thing that gives you life, right? And just enjoyment. The other thing too is, okay, with your full-time job, you have the health benefits and paid time off. That's security, right? That's stability. A lot of times, if you're a freelancer, that's hard to come by yourself. So that's something to appreciate. And you could even use some of your time off to sprint through this. When I first got started, I took a week off just to work on making a website. I knew nothing about how to do it. I was just watching YouTube videos and doing stuff on Squarespace, and then eventually just sprinted through and was able to make that milestone leap. The other thing to think about is, because of your day job, you have that work experience that you can apply to run your own business, right? You're probably learning things about what your leadership is doing or what your manager is doing or the things that you've been doing. And so you could put yourself in those shoes with, how would I run the most ideal business that I'm managing? The other thing is you have unique access to your network, right? You have potential new customers and free leads just from the people you work with. And even though you might work in an industry that isn't related to entertainment, that's totally fine because those industries need to market themselves too and do ads. You could work for a university, these universities put on ads and stuff. You could work for, a shop, right? There's all sorts of opportunities. And the other thing is you are an insider of your industry, right? So you have that extra context and you could leverage that to give better performance when you're able to do voiceover work for them. So there's people out there that are doctors, right? And they also do what's called medical narration, where they know how to pronounce the terms and they know how to sound official and doctor-like. And they have their own niche in doing that because they know the industry super well. So if you're a lawyer or you're in some very specialized thing or you know how to speak finance, right? You could be doing a Chase ad or something one day. So think about that. The other thing too is this kind of goes back into funding your own business, but it's funding your retirement and financial security. So by having that full-time job, it ideally gives you that opportunity to do that, where you have that stability, and so you're not as desperate or concerned in your freelance side hustle, because that can frankly get in the way of your performance, right? Like humans, we're very good at picking up on things like micro expressions in the face and hearing things in people's voices. So when people are stressed out, you can hear it in their voice, whether or not they're trying to hide it, usually. So ideally, you're in this place of confidence and comfort, so then you've removed barriers to not get in your own way, and then just, perform and have fun, because that is what is attractive and will bring people to you and make people want to work with you. So this is the slide with the most amount of text, but there's a lot to cover with time-saving strategies, okay? So I work in operations at YouTube, so I'm super into efficiency because I have to be. We're processing a lot of video and we need things to work. So think about something called a time versus money trade-off. So there might be things that you do all the time that you could outsource, okay? If you clean your own apartment or house, right, that takes time. You could also instead pay a little bit of money to have someone else do that for you. And in exchange for that money, you freed back your time, and maybe that person you are outsourcing to would clean your place better than you ever could anyway. So think about the advantages there. You could, in theory, if you want to get really nerdy into this, calculate what is your average compensation per hour, right? If you look at how much money you're making in the year, and even after taxes, and you divide that by the amount of days, right, in the year, there's probably a number that you could objectively get to where you realize, okay, if this thing is going to take my day, is that worth it to me for me to spend my time doing it? Or I could pay less than, if this is going to cost me $20, but I make more than $20 a day, then you might as well pay the $20 to have someone take care of that versus you deciding to take your time to do it. The other thing too is, let's say the opposite. Let's say you don't have the money to spare. There's a lot of things that you might be doing that are very almost mindless, like washing dishes or cooking or driving. Obviously, you want to be paying attention driving, but you could listen to something while driving, right? And you could retain information. So anytime I'm walking my dog, or I'm cooking, or I'm cleaning dishes, or I'm doing laundry, I still do all these things myself. I am listening to information like podcasts and audiobooks about whatever is of interest to me, which includes learning about voiceover. This is one of the best habits I've ever had. If you have a long commute too, an hour or half an hour, right? Imagine how many half an hours are happening over the course of your work year and how much content you could get through and absorb. You'll just become a smarter, more wise person in time by listening to good things if you do that. You can think about using your time to learn things, right? Or paying someone to help accelerate your knowledge. So let's say you doing 1,000 auditions is going to teach you lessons and things for what to do or what not to do, right? That's a lot of time to do all those auditions. Or you could do a coaching session where it might cost you, $200, right? For that hour, where you might get so much advice in that hour that's going to accelerate your progress. So think about the trade-offs of spending a little bit of money to accelerate your learning versus spending your time to learn all that, and what's worth it to you, okay? Other concepts which you all can read, like using time now to save time later. There's things you could be doing now that will reduce the friction and help you get to things faster. So you could smooth out repetitive tasks. If you plan, it's going to save you time later too, right? Planning now is going to save you that time in the future. And working in focus bursts, and also tracking your time to be aware of how you're even spending it, okay? I don't know if you have a phone, right, that tells you your app usage. I know my iPhone does that in one of my home screens. You could be very honest with how you're spending your time and then realize how you could allocate it differently. Another great thing is thinking about high impact activities. So if you go to industry events or things like DreamCon, right, you are learning about things, you're seeing familiar faces maybe, and you're meeting new people all in one, okay? That's an activity that's got high leverage. Also, think about creating things that can scale your presence once you do it once, right? So if you make a website, that takes a lot of work, but once it's made, it's there and anyone can see it. And in fact, there could be more people looking at your website than you could ever in person introduce to someone in your lifetime, right? So that is like a super effective way to scale your leverage. The same goes with demos, the same goes with social media. The other thing too is watching things with family and friends, okay? That's bonding, right? That's quality time, but then you're also absorbing and getting culture. That's a fun one. Taking classes with decision makers like casting directors. You're gonna be learning from them, you'll get exposure to them, so if they like you, they might hire you, and then you'll be making new friends and you'll see others perform. There's so much happening in just like a coaching session like that. The other thing is to be strategic about your schedule and needs. So are you working in a job that's flexible, and how can you massage that to make time? The other thing to think about is, are you a voice actor that can do live sessions or just offline recorded ones? So there's two different opportunities there to think about. And then think about other people's schedules that's in your lives, your kids, your spouse, your roommate, right? When are they busy? So then you can get away and do your thing. That might be before or after people are asleep. And then like, how much is good enough, right? There is an infinite ceiling with how good you could be at editing audio, but you don't need to know that much to be a good voice actor. So think through that. Okay, I'm gonna play this. This is, so these are all made up scripted character samples. And I thought this would be a fun thing to break up.
All right, team. Now, I won't lie to you. This mission is dangerous. But if there's one crew in this galaxy that can pull it off, it's us. We've got the best pilots, the sharpest engineers, and a weapons specialist who still owes me 20 credits from Poker Night. Don't sweat it, Frank. We'll discuss that later. Remember, we're not just doing this for the glory or the highly probable chance of becoming legends. Though that all sounds pretty good. We're doing this because if we don't, who will? Ready to make history? Let's go! I'm the most explosive character in board game history. Looks like your game just went up in smoke. Prepare to be eliminated.
Every battle is shadowed by the spirit of your father. You must take this energy and use it. This is the only way to defeat the one you seek vengeance.
You have come a far distance to meet with me, haven't you? Bring him back to me alive, and I will give you what you seek. Destiny has finally brought us face to face. And now, it is time to demonstrate the true extent of my power!
Mission log, day 97. The ration supplies will last me and the crew another 2 weeks tops. If anyone can hear this, send help.
Cool. Thank you. So quick thing about that is, again, I just looked to the things that I liked playing and watching, right? And thought through how to be diverse and what characters I could actually do and what could actually address the market of things out there that I could be hired for. I was told that I sound like Chris Pine sometimes, so I decided to do a Star Trek-y impression of him with that first demo. So that's what that is. Let's talk very quickly about just setting goals and organization, getting things done. You got to think about what your goal actually is. Do you want this to be a permanent career in time, or is this just like this hobby that you're doing? Knowing the answers to those questions can help shape how you get there. And then once you do, you can work backwards, right? So you could set a goal for the year. So maybe a goal is, I want to be audition ready. That's a very simple statement, but that has a lot in it, right? What does it take to be audition ready? Can I use the mic? Can I record? Can I send a file? Do I know how to read well and perform well? Do I have access to audition opportunities to be able to go and do it? And all those things. So that's a great goal to have. Other things are thinking about productive frameworks. So let's say you get hit with all these things that you need to do. I like to call that my in. So I'm just collecting all the things that I need to do, and then later I go through the in and then I process it to what is the next actions. And then you could prioritize those next actions. There might be things you're waiting on from other people. That should be its own separate list. This is the things I'm waiting for people to get back to me on. There's things that could be later, that's a separate bucket, and then you review this weekly, right, and keep up with it. Okay, this is from the Getting Things Done book. Highly recommend checking it out. It's by a guy named David Allen, Getting Things Done. Another way to look at things is doing work as it comes, predefining work, and then doing predefined work, right? These are 3 different phases that you want to make sure you are healthily addressing in good time. Another thing too is when you're presented with something that you need to act on, you could either do it, delegate it, or defer it for later. Think through like anything you're presented with. If it takes you 2 minutes or less to do, you should just do it now. If someone else can do it better, you should delegate it, right? Or if now is not the right time to do it, defer it for later, but then schedule specifically when that time will be. And if you come across it again and now isn't the good time, you move it again on the calendar. Ideally, you're not putting off that thing though for so long. To wrap all this up, looking at the industry and all the considerations of things, this is 4 essential things to think about. You want to develop your niche. You got to stand out. If you are kind of halfway decent at a bunch of things, that's not going to help you stand out. So think about what that is. You want to work on your ongoing professional development. So you as an actor, and you as a business person, and you as a tech person, you with your vocal health too. So seeking out mentorship, getting coaching, and doing all that will help you so much. And then expanding your professional network. So friends, decision makers, going to DreamCon, right? And meeting people that are making content and working with them. And then in time, upgrading your studio quality, which is why it's last. So that will help you with credibility. Saying you have this mic will have some people in the industry be like, oh, that person knows what they're doing, right? But that's a later step if you have earned spending that money to get there. Thank you so much, guys. So yeah, we got a question.